Are you slowly destroying your relationship with your adult children without even realizing it? What if I told you that certain phrases, words you might say almost every day, are silently making your children dread your calls and avoid visiting you? The most shocking part, you probably have no idea this is happening. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 7 specific sentences that make your children secretly resent you after age 70, and more importantly, exactly what to say instead to restore those precious relationships before it's too late. Let me tell you about Martha from Portland. At 73, Martha couldn't understand why her once close relationships with her 3 adult children had become so strained. Her son Michael lived just 30 minutes away, but hadn't visited in over 2 months. Her daughters Emily and Patricia would rush off phone calls and always seemed too busy for Sunday dinners. Martha was heartbroken and confused. She'd raised them with love, supported their dreams, and now, in her golden years, she felt abandoned. What Martha didn't realize was that certain phrases she regularly used were creating walls between them. It wasn't until her daughter-in-law Jessica finally gathered the courage to be honest that Martha discovered the truth. The things you say make them feel judged, guilty, and disrespected, Jessica explained gently. The revelation shocked Martha, but once she eliminated these toxic phrases from her vocabulary, the transformation was remarkable. Within just 3 weeks, her children began calling more often and even initiated visits. Today, I'll share exactly what Martha learned so you can experience the same revitalization in your family relationships. Sentence 1. In my day, things were much different better. Have you noticed how your children's faces change when you start comparing your past to their present? That subtle eye roll or the way they suddenly remember an important email they need to check? This seemingly innocent nostalgic comment is actually a relationship destroyer. Family psychologists at Cornell University's Center for Family Dynamics explain that this phrase creates what they call generational invalidation, a subconscious dismissal of your adult children's entire life experience. Dr. Nathan Robbins, lead researcher in multi-generational communication, explains, when parents consistently reference how things were better in their day, they're essentially telling their adult children that their struggles, achievements, and entire life context are somehow less valid or meaningful. This creates deep resentment that rarely gets expressed directly. Consider Howard, a 75-year-old retired engineer from Chicago whose 2 sons gradually stopped bringing their families for weekend visits. During a rare moment of honesty, his oldest son admitted, "Dad, every time we visit, you lecture us about how we have it easy compared to your generation. It makes us feel like nothing we accomplish matters to you." Howard was stunned. He thought he was simply sharing wisdom and perspective, not creating a competitive comparison that devalued his children's experiences. Here's what you must do instead, starting with your very next conversation. Replace "in my day" with "I'm curious about how you handle." This simple shift transforms judgmental comparison into respectful curiosity. For example, instead of saying, "In my day, we fixed things ourselves," instead of replacing them, try, "I'm curious about how you decide when to repair versus replace things." This invites conversation rather than shutting it down. Practice this technique immediately. Your relationship depends on it. Wouldn't you rather have a meaningful exchange than win an imaginary contest between generations? Sentence 2. You never visit, call me enough. Does guilt-tripping your children ever actually result in more genuine visits? Or does it just make them feel manipulated and resentful every time they see your name on their caller ID? Research from the American Association of Family Therapists reveals that guilt-based communication is the fastest way to damage adult parent-child relationships. Dr. Samantha Williams, specialist in senior family dynamics, states, When parents use quantitative statements like never or enough regarding contact, they transform what should be joyful connection into an obligation or burden. This triggers a psychological defense mechanism where adult children begin to associate communication with their parent with negative emotions and unconsciously avoid it. Take Barbara from Ohio, whose 3 adult children lived within driving distance, yet visits had become increasingly rare and uncomfortable. "I just don't understand why they can't spare an hour for their mother," she would say directly to them. Her daughter Lauren finally explained the painful truth during family therapy. "Every time we talk, you make us feel like failures for not visiting more. The guilt is so overwhelming that we've started dreading calls because we know what's coming. We actually want to see you, Mom, but not when every visit starts with how we've disappointed you. Here's the immediate change you need to make. Eliminate all versions of 'you never visit enough' from your vocabulary tonight. Instead, try this specific approach. 'I always love seeing you, and I'd enjoy getting together when it works for your schedule.' Then suggest a specific activity you could share. 'I was thinking we might try that new restaurant next time you're free.' No, this shows you respect their busy lives while expressing your desire for connection without manipulation. Can you see how this subtle shift removes pressure while still expressing your wish for time together? Make this change today, before another precious opportunity for connection is lost to resentment." Sentence 3. You're raising your children wrong. Is there a faster way to ensure your adult children limit your access to your grandchildren than criticizing their parenting? This devastating phrase creates a 2-generation rift that can take years to heal, if it ever does. Family researchers at the Intergenerational Studies Institute found that criticizing adult children's parenting decisions is the most common trigger for complete relationship breakdowns between parents over 70 and their adult children. Dr. Jennifer Patterson explains, when grandparents critique parenting styles, they're not just offering an opinion, they're challenging their adult child's most personal and meaningful life role. This creates a protective response where adult children restrict access to grandchildren to avoid having them witness this undermining of parental authority. Consider Gerald from Pennsylvania, a 76-year-old who constantly questioned his daughter Sarah's permissive parenting style. What started as occasional comments escalated to direct criticism. "You're raising these kids all wrong. They need more discipline." Within months, his weekly visits with his grandchildren were reduced to brief holiday appearances, always under Sarah's watchful supervision. When Gerald asked why, Sarah was frank. "I won't have my children exposed to someone who undermines my authority as their parent, even if that person is their grandfather. Here's what you must do immediately. Even if you disagree with how your grandchildren are being raised, commit to zero criticism of parenting methods unless there's actual danger involved. Instead, try this approach. I notice Emily really responds when you explain things at her level. You've developed such patience as a parent. This acknowledges their authority while still participating in the conversation about child rearing. When you feel criticism rising, ask yourself, would you rather be right or be present in your grandchildren's lives? The choice is yours, but the consequences are immediate and potentially permanent. Can you make this critical change today? Sentence 4. You should. Are you offering unsolicited advice to your adult children? This might be the most common and damaging communication mistake parents over 70 make. Those two simple words, "you should," can create invisible walls between you and the people you love most. A comprehensive study from the Family Communication Research Center found that unsolicited advice was cited by 78% of adult children as the primary reason they limited contact with parents after age 70. Dr. Michael Thompson, director of the center, explains, When parents lead with "you should," they're communicating a fundamental lack of trust in their adult child's judgment and competence. This creates a parent-child dynamic that's inappropriate between adults and generates significant resentment. Helen, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Seattle, couldn't understand why her daughter Olivia had started keeping her at arm's length. Their once close relationship had deteriorated to brief, surface-level phone calls. During a heart-to-heart conversation initiated by Olivia, Helen learned that her constant stream of unsolicited advice about Olivia's career, marriage, home decorating, and even her haircut had created a deep well of frustration. "Mom, I feel like I can't tell you anything without getting a lecture about how I should be doing it differently," Olivia admitted. "It makes me feel like you think I'm still 12 years old. Here's what you must do instead. Before offering any advice, train yourself to ask this simple permission question. I have some thoughts on that situation. Would you be interested in hearing them?" This simple preface respects your adult child's autonomy and gives them control over the conversation. If they decline, respect that boundary completely. When they do seek your wisdom, offer it tentatively. One approach might be, rather than definitively, "you should." This subtle shift communicates respect for their judgment while still sharing your experience. Can you practice this approach in your very next conversation? The relationship you save will be your own. Sentence 5. I'm just saying, just asking. Do you use this phrase to soften criticism or disguise judgmental questions? Your adult children can see right through this conversational tactic, and it's damaging your relationship more than you realize. Psychologists specializing in communication patterns at Princeton University have identified this phrase as a classic linguistic Trojan horse, a way to deliver criticism while attempting to evade responsibility for its impact. Dr. Rebecca Goldstein notes, the phrase "just saying" is particularly problematic because it attempts to make the recipient feel unreasonable for having a negative reaction to what was clearly a negative comment. This creates a double injury, first the criticism, then the implication that there's something wrong with feeling criticized. Take Richard, a 74-year-old from Florida, who couldn't understand why his son Andrew had become increasingly distant. During a rare, honest moment, Andrew explained that his father's habit of making pointed observations followed by "just saying" had created a pattern of dreading their interactions. "Dad, when you ask if we really need such a big house and then add 'just asking,' you're not really just asking. You're criticizing our choices but not owning it. It makes me feel simultaneously judged and gaslit." Here's your immediate action plan. Eliminate "just saying" and "just asking" from your vocabulary completely. If you have genuine curiosity, phrase questions in truly neutral terms. "I'd love to understand what drew you to this neighborhood." Instead of "isn't this area getting kind of run down?" Just asking. If you catch yourself about to use this phrase, stop and ask yourself, am I delivering a judgment in disguise? Be honest with yourself, then either rephrase or simply keep the thought private. Can you commit to this change starting today? The authenticity of your relationships depends on it. Sentence 6. After all I've done for you. Have you found yourself reminding your children of past sacrifices when you feel disappointed in them? This transactional approach to parental love might be the most corrosive force in your relationship. Family therapists from the National Institute of Relationship Studies have identified this phrase as the hallmark of conditional parenting, a dynamic that becomes particularly damaging in later life relationships. Dr. William Harrison explains, when parents invoke past sacrifices as leverage, they transform what should be unconditional love into an ongoing debt that children can never repay. This creates profound resentment and a distancing response as adult children attempt to escape this impossible obligation. Consider Dorothy, a 77-year-old widow from Virginia who couldn't understand why her daughters limited their interactions to brief, infrequent visits. During family therapy, her youngest daughter explained through tears, "Every time we disagree or can't do something you want, you list all the sacrifices you made for us. It makes us feel like your love was just a series of investments you now expect returns on. We can never do enough to repay all you've done for us, so we've stopped trying. Here's what you must do instead. Recognize that the sacrifices you made as a parent were gifts freely given, not loans to be repaid. When you feel the urge to remind your children of what you've done for them, stop and instead express how you feel in the present moment without reference to the past. I feel disappointed that we won't be able to have dinner together this weekend, rather than after all the Sunday dinners I cooked for you growing up, you can't spare one evening for me." This honest expression of feelings without manipulation respects both your emotions and your child's autonomy. Can you make this crucial distinction starting now? Your relationship's future may depend on it. Sentence 7. You're too busy for me when I'm gone. Have you used your mortality or loneliness as emotional leverage to get more attention from your children? This form of emotional manipulation might be the most damaging of all the phrases we've discussed. Research from the Center for Family Dynamics shows that emotional leverage using mortality or abandonment fears creates what psychologists call approach avoidance conflict, a situation where adult children simultaneously feel pulled toward and pushed away from the relationship. Dr. Elizabeth Chen explains, when parents use their mortality or loneliness as manipulation tools, it creates intense guilt, but also resentment. The adult child feels trapped in an impossible situation where neither engagement nor distance resolves the underlying emotional manipulation. William, a 79-year-old from Texas, couldn't understand why his relationship with his 3 children had deteriorated to formal, infrequent phone calls. His son finally explained that William's constant references to not having much time left and being all alone in this big house had created an atmosphere where genuine connection was impossible. "Dad, we want to spend time with you because we love you, not because we're afraid you'll die alone if we don't visit this weekend." The pressure makes every interaction feel like emotional blackmail instead of family time. Here's what you must do immediately. Replace mortality references with invitation to genuine connection. Instead of, "You'll regret not spending more time with me when I'm gone," try, "I'd love to create some more memories together this summer. Would you be interested in a weekend visit in July?" This shifts the interaction from manipulation to invitation, acknowledging their choice in the matter. When you feel lonely, express it as your experience rather than their failure. "I've been feeling a bit isolated lately and would really enjoy some company," rather than, "You're too busy to care about your lonely father." Can you see how this subtle shift respects their autonomy while still expressing your genuine needs? Make this change in your very next conversation. These 7 sentences may seem innocent on the surface, but they're silently destroying your relationship with your adult children day by day. The good news? By eliminating "in my day things were better," "you never visit enough," "you're raising your children wrong," "you should," "I'm just saying," "after all I've done for you," and "when I'm gone," you can transform your family dynamics almost immediately. Remember Martha from our opening story? Within weeks of changing her communication patterns, her relationships flourished. The choice is yours. Continue these damaging patterns and watch your family connections erode, or make these simple changes and create the loving, respectful relationships you truly desire. The power to transform your family dynamic is literally in the words you choose starting today. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and comment below which of these phrases you've been using without realizing the damage. Subscribe to our channel for more relationship-saving advice that can transform your golden years from isolation to connection. Share this video with friends who might be struggling with family relationships. You might just be saving their most precious connections before it's too late.